Alright everyone, a lot of people haven't even heard the story of Justine Damond. She was an Australian who was visiting the United States, and she made the mistake of going to Minneapolis, which these days is not a great thing to do. And Mohammed Noor, who was a police officer there, shot her through his cop car door. Apparently in an unprovoked, racially motivated attack. Now, it could have been religiously motivated too. I guess we're not exactly sure. But right now, the mayor of Minneapolis, mayor-elect, is extremely angry. He's not angry about the fact that somebody on the police force there killed somebody in an unprovoked attack. That's just par for the... It's normal. Don't worry, people. It's a big city. Sometimes we got problems. No, he's mad because Identity Europa showed up to put a little memorial up to Justine Damond. And they said he went apeshit and said, no, the same police force, oddly enough, that Mohammed Noor was part of, then has to go and remove it. You see, if you have, like, ethno-nationalist beliefs, you are now a pariah to the point at which you're not even allowed to put up a memorial. It doesn't even have to include anything racist. Like, it's not like they left a framed photo of Adolf Hitler there and said, they sat around saying Sieg Heil, and there were, like, swastika flags and stuff. It's probably what, they wish that you would believe happened. But it was just a picture of the victim, some candles, like a teddy bear and stuff. Some flowers. Very normal, mundane memorial. Apparently, it's gotten to the point where if a person has any form of nationalistic beliefs, now, of course, this is a specifically ethno-nationalistic group. Now, what about a civic nationalist group? What about populist movement? Now, they're not even allowed to function in society. Like, they certainly can't have a job if they're open about their beliefs. So they can't find employment. They're not allowed to go anywhere without getting mobbed suddenly. They can't speak online or in person. They can't even memorialize anything. They've basically become second-class citizens within the United States, which is extremely funny to me. It's extremely funny because this is exactly what the concept of the First Amendment seeks to avoid. The creation of a group of people who are unable to function because of some belief that they have that is considered offensive. And the First Amendment specifically for offensive speech. But I find it very funny that people seem to be very, very upset at Identity Europa for making a memorial. Like the mayor, like, I condemn in the strongest possible terms the perpetrators of this, vile act, I guess, putting up a memorial that has no specific racial inclusions. It's just that they happen to put it up there. I condemn it in the highest possible terms. Like, it's the worst thing that ever happened. A woman is dead. That's okay. That's par for the course. And by the way, at the time, the media didn't even want to talk about it. Why? Because the perpetrator was a minority, so-called, and the victim was white. And let's not mince words. It's exactly why it got less airplay. Can you imagine had the roles been over a 40-year-old black woman walks up to a cop car, evil white Christian Zimmerman look-alike is in the car, blows her away through the door. What the hell do you think the media would have done? It would have been plastered everywhere for months. You would have never heard the end of it. We've seen this before. We saw this with Garner. We saw this with Michael Brown. We saw this with Trayvon. In some cases, you've got a media circus and a total lynch mob freak show, even if it was a justified act. You've got one here that is probably one of the most unjustified acts possible to imagine. A completely unprovoked, broad daylight attack on someone, possibly for racial reasons. Nope. Everyone's mum about it because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative is that anytime there's police brutality, it's 90% of the time the cop is white and 90% of the time the victim is a minority. Now, that's not even remotely true. Absolutely wrong, but that's the narrative. But that's because they only fixate on certain stories. People have begun to notice the discrepancy here. And I guess what I'm wondering is, how can you say, for example, that a person has to be racially motivated if they point out that it appears that the differential coverage of these cases is itself racially motivated? Like pointing out that there could be some problems, there could be some bias, maybe even some bigotry there, makes you biased and bigoted. And Identity Europa, look, they just showed up to leave a memorial. They weren't sitting around saying, oh, we must burn the minorities for killing our white woman. It's not what they did. It's a standard memorial. It's a bunch of flowers. And by the way, it could very well have been an attempt to bait the mayor of Minneapolis into having exactly this kind of response, because now people are going to look. Now, let me tell you what you just did. To all the people in the country, you just basically said the fact that this group has out there beliefs by our, normie standards precludes them from putting up a memorial. That's the worst thing they could have done. It's so horrible. They left flowers and a picture of the victim. But they're also going to notice, hey, I didn't even know this case happened in half these cases. Half these people have never heard of this individual before. Their first exposure to this case is you going crazy, not about the shooting, but about the fact that Identity Europa showed up to leave a memorial. That's not going to look good. It's not a good optics, I would say. So he probably just played right into their hand. But you wouldn't know that because these people are so bad at strategy. How can public officials be so dumb? And by the way, people are like, the same people are like, well, guilt by association, like, you know, this person's not an ethno-nationalist, but they're like a Nazi gatekeeper. People are so worried about being smeared as racist, racism enabler, privileged and unaware of privilege, something like that. They're so afraid of these things. I think it was Max Boot or some author slash neocon pundit earlier. It was like, oh, you know, they did a write-up and so like, oh, I never realized my white privilege before, but now I realize it. It's like, this is basically, please don't label me with the scarlet R. Please, anything. You can call me a rapist if you want. It's easier to recover from that than being called a Nazi. People are so afraid they're not even willing to like talk to somebody with nationalistic beliefs. Like I am. I'm going to keep doing that because I'm going to talk to whoever the hell I want. But a lot of people, they're not willing to do that. They don't want to, no, can't do it. I got a day job. I got like a wife and kids I'm going to provide for. I can't say anything out there on the internet. I can't talk to anybody edgy. I might lose my job because a lynch mob shows up and says, oh yeah, you know, he's a burger flipper. He's making swasta burgers now because he's like talking to Richard Spencer or something. Like, here's the thing. If memorials are like tainted because, you know, you got ethno-nationalists attending it or putting it up, does that give Richard Spencer like the ultimate power? Like he can literally go around with some cheap bottles of wine or something, he can go to Monticello and leave some wine there, and then he'll call some cameras and says, here I am at Monticello, ha ha ha, now it's a racist monument, so now you have to tear it down. He goes to the White House, manages to get a bottle over on the White House lawn, oh, the White House has to be like totally redone now. He goes to the U.S. Capitol, clinks it against the pillar. Whoops, we have to tear down the U.S. Capitol. It's a Nazi site now. Other Nazis will come to do pilgrimage because Holiness himself, Richard Spencer, touched one of the pillars with his cheap wine. That's what you would have to do, I guess. It taints everything. It's like so many people, I think, have this perception that anyone who's out there, that they're incapable of doing anything normal. Now, we've seen this tactic, this propaganda, literally, deployed before against other groups. Like, you have, what's his name there? The glasses-wearing dude on King of the Hill there. One that chain smokes. I don't know, I like King of the Hill, but I didn't watch it enough to, like, memorize everything. I know who Hank and Bobby are and stuff, obviously. But it's a good show, but, you know, I didn't watch every episode or anything. The conspiracy theory dude, he's depicted as being incapable of holding a normal conversation. Literally everything that he does, from what he wears to what he eats to how he lives, the decor in his home, how he lives, every aspect of his life is directly informed by having fringe beliefs. I think that's the sort of thing that they're trying to get people to believe about, like, ethno-nationalists. Like, it's not so much they're like, oh, you know, who white or something like that. It's a case where they're incapable of discussing anything else. They're incapable of living a normal life in any capacity because everything they do is informed by their deep-seated hatred against other people. I happen to disagree. I happen to think 99% of the things they do are, it's just like, you know, they're people too. They're actually human beings, but, you know, people are trying to dehumanize them completely. So I think a lot of people don't realize that. You know, and a lot of people, they won't say that to their audience. You know, a lot of other YouTubers, you know, talk to them in private and they'll say the same thing. In public, they're never going to say that. They're never going to tell you that, oh yeah, by the way, I acknowledge, yes, people can have like they can be totally out there like a total meth skinhead, and they still do normal things. They can feel love, like towards their family or something. They're actually capable of doing that. You're not going to hear that. They'll be too dishonest. Like Jared Holt, he's probably scribbling furiously right now, doing a write-up. Oh, Styx admits that he enjoys talking to skinheads or something like that. And it'll be funny. And easily refuted by anybody who knows anything about my material. But like to the normie, oh, they'll just gobble it right up. Go on red ice again. It'd be funny. See what their reaction is. Sargon's a gatekeeper too. He's a very funny Nazi gatekeeper, considering he sends like gay porn to Nazis. Okay. That makes perfect sense to me, folks. He gets banned off Twitter for trolling Nazis. And that makes him a Nazi. Because he was talking to them. He made the mistake of communicating with them, so that taints him forever too. It's not as bad. You can still like have a kind of normal life, but then you don't get the scarlet R, but you get a little patch that says racist enabler or something. You have to wear this, staple it to your flesh. That's how we've gone. No, I'm not outraged by Identity Europa deciding to leave a memorial. It's literally, it's flowers, a picture, and some candles. It's not a giant golden swastika saying, we're sorry that the country is not racially homogenized. That's not what happened. They're acting like it's the end of the world, but it doesn't matter. The original case that actually causes all the other effects, that doesn't matter. Oh, this is just routine police brutality. Don't look at any possible racial or religious motives, everybody. You're an evil bigot if you do. Because, you know, the roles were reversed from what we want to depict as standard police brutality. So you're not allowed to talk to it about it. You can't report on it. You can't memorialize it. No, basically screw the victim. Woman gets shot. That's not as big an outrage as the memorial that was left for the woman that was shot. Don't you understand how crazy that sounds? I think it is. Yeah, I think it's absolutely nuts. That's about all. Peace out.